All right, little after 2 o'clock here on the East Coast. Little after, 11 o'clock in the morning. It's still morning on the West Coast, so I guess we could say good morning from Riverton, at least to our friends in the Pacific. That's right. Please be specific. Michi, you're talking to the Pacific. So we're going to now put out some announcements. And hopefully we will get some people jumping in and talking to us. And here's the cool part about the whole thing. We are going to have, this time around, we are going to have a phone number. People can call in and talk live with us. We'll talk live about whatever is, whatever's on your mind on stuff here. Because talking about stuff is what we do here, regardless of what's going on now. Of course, we're not going to put the phone number on the screen because, I don't want it to show up in a thumbnail and, we start getting all kinds of wacky calls. We want good calls. So we're going to put the phone number. And I see Ricky has just popped on. Asking if this is the first outing of the Roadcaster. Yes, it is. Yes, it most definitely is. This is the Roadcaster. And, we will show it here in a bit. But for those, who might be straggling along, who don't know what one of these look like, this is the neat thing about the Roadcaster. I don't know if this is neat or not, but Roadcaster, when you get this thing, it doesn't have a book. There's no book that comes with the Roadcaster. Wait a minute. What? Okay, it's 10. Okay, it's 10 o'clock in the evening. Okay, it's 10 o'clock in the evening out your way in the UK there. But instead they send these giant cards as, so here, until we can show it off, this is what the Roadcaster looks like. Oh my God, yeah. They send these giant cards instead of instead of an instruction booklet with like tiny print, and there's really no there's really no, it's just a quick start. The use of this device is, for all intents and purposes, very self-explanatory. Very self-explanatory. This device is. Hang on, I'm in the process right now of announcing that we are currently live right now. We're announcing a toll-free number. Wait a minute, it's only 7. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, it's 1906, 1907. What the heck was I thinking? Okay, because see, I have it written in 24-hour time here. On these, on the Stream Deck here. We'll try to bring this around. Oh, I don't have much antenna slack here, but on the Stream Deck and my smoking, yes. In my very nicotine stained hands, quoting, never mind. The autofocus does not do this any justice, but on the Stream Deck we do have Japan time. We have what's called REC operations time. This is the time that the J1 computer systems run on. This is what is it? UTC minus 7. This would be Pacific Daylight Time, but also Mountain Standard Time. This time never changes. And then, of course, in respect to my, there we go. There's a better angle. In respect to my home country, I have to put that in there as Erie. And then we've got our, we've got our little things here where we can switch, and we can switch the audio, we can switch the video around. Just built a whole bunch of new stuff for this thing on the J1 side. And on the J1 side, we have an earthquake mode, and now we can break into our broadcasts if we want to. We're going to put some more buttons on there, and there will be some video manipulation there too. And we also have monitors for all the J1 channels, including the new one, which has not been officially announced yet. We've got that fourth J1 channel that's going to be coming. And we're shooting for hopefully a whatchamacallit, Memorial Day weekend, U.S. Memorial Day weekend launch for that, and that will be this will be good because we're going to do something that that hasn't been done. And I am, there's a couple out there who know what's going on because they're in on it. But at the same point, I'm not going to spoil the surprises. So anyway, we're just announcing right now on Facebook that we have a live stream going, and yes, we do have a toll-free number that's set up. It thanks to the we're playing with the Rodecaster, and the Rodecaster has this Bluetooth functionality. So if somebody right now, and I have a VoIP line, I have a VoIP. I'm using a Lin phone right now on my phone here, and so we have it. So this this toll-free number that I've had for quite a long time but never really used routes in right now, and it will route into. It's actually routing right now. We got it routing into a call director kind of thing. Please wait, we're in queue, stand by, and yada 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 yada. And then this is set on auto answer, so that way if it as soon as it hits, it comes up, and then all I have to do is just bring up the pot, and we're good to go, and we can talk to people on the phone. And I did a phone call on this thing yesterday, and it sounded really good. It sounded like it was kind of neat having a regular phone conversation, like I was on the air, and that is awesome. So So let's go back over here, and hopefully we'll get some folks to show up. We've done a lot of been doing a lot of work here, trying to get everything together here. We're going through our J1. We're going through a new phase of completely refurbishing the whole earthquake system. I've always been big on the earthquakes. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that after March 11th of 2011, when the big quake hit Japan, there, the big great, what they call the Great East Japan earthquake. We call it Tohoku, the Tohoku earthquake. Of course, it became the talking point of many conspiracy theories and such about the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant and all that. So, anyway, we did announce I guess I'll just go ahead. I mean, I don't think there's too many people on here right now. I think I only see 3, and that's one thing I have on the Stream Deck here. The Stream Deck I've got I've got a plug-in for the Stream Deck that will allow me to see how many people are watching the YouTube channel as we stream. So it's pretty neat. Right now it's showing 3. So we're just gonna maybe just give this a little more time to build up. But I'm not going to put it over. I'll just go ahead and announce it. The phone number to call in if you want to call in and talk is 1-855 Hi Michi. Hi Michi. 1-855 Hi Michi. HIMICHI 1-855. I guess that would be 446-4244. Yeah. So there you go. 1-855 Hi Michi. And if you have any questions in regards to low power FM broadcasting, things that are going on right now in the FCC world, things that, as long as you don't, as long as you don't mind discussing it, a specific station situation, that you don't mind it being discussed in public. I'm popping my peas. If you don't mind it being discussed in public, yeah, we can talk about it here. And that's it. It's a 1-855 Hi Michi. I see WBOC FM got their modification granted. That means that they're going to be probably about an extra half a dB louder to me. We've got the crawl. We've got the FCC data crawl across the bottom of the screen. We're still working on getting a few of the others. Oh my God, I lost people. I don't know if even Ricky is still there or not. Sometimes I wonder if I should even look at this thing to think, okay, do I worry about how many people are listening? It's like the old days with the old DJ holding the record up, looking through the hole in the record saying, I can see what you're all doing out there. Yeah, those were the days. Those were the days. Let's see what's going on here. Today is comment deadline on PS docket 15-94 and 15-91 regarding emergency alert systems and what the FCC is wanting to do next. One of the things that they want to do is they want to rename what comes up on a wireless emergency alert as a presidential alert. They want to rename that to a national alert. Now, those of you remember, I think it was back in 2000, I think it was in 2018, when we had the National Periodic Test. And of course, when, we had somebody at the time who was in the White House who had a habit of tweeting on their phone at all day hours of the day and night. And of course, some people agreed, some people disagreed with what he had to say. And, the fact that even though it's been that way for a while, it's come to light that, these national emergencies are going to be coming up on your phone with this hard-coded header of presidential alert. Some people were thinking, oh, he's going to abuse the system and he's going to send tweets through the emergency alert that are going to show up on everybody's phone, and there's nothing that we can do, and we're kind of stuck here. I mean, it got to the point of where I actually had I got inquiries. I'm not going to say who. I'm not going to say who. And there's no name dropping here. But I did get inquiries from people who said that, they want to be able, they do not like this president. And they just wanted to be able to opt out of this. They wanted to be able to opt out of any, EAN or anything that this certain president was doing because of the fear that they would abuse the system. And of course, me taking the nonpartisan approach, I guess you could say, I said, look, the EANs, it all exists for a reason, and hopefully we'll never have to use it for what its true intended purposes. But we should not be, we should not be in a position where we are judging what is a national emergency and what is not. So I've always been, I've had, I take this nonpartisan approach and I say, look, let's not use emergency alerts. Let's not use wireless alerts. Let's not use iPods open, which I have a habit. Okay, I admit, and I did it in this last proceeding, I have a habit of calling it open iPods instead of iPods open. I was corrected by somebody today who's connected with FEMA and said, no, it's iPods open, not open iPods. And I said, okay, well, it's like tomato. I mean, I think people know what I'm talking about, which is, the third monitor that you have on your emergency alert system where, it comes over the internet. I mean, the very few things that come over the internet through open iPods. And, that's one of the things that we're actually going to be discussing in the next part of this rulemaking, which is going to be coming up here with a filing deadline of May 14th. May 14th is the filing deadline for expanding the emergency alert system beyond radio, beyond TV, beyond cable, but to also, and hopefully on a very voluntary basis, to streaming services. Now, of course, we all know that we think that, that the Commission's intention is really the large streaming services, the Pandoras, the Amazon Musics, the Sirius XMs, and them. Although Sirius XM does have an EAS requirement, the SDARS licensees do have, so they do monitor national EAS. Actually, they actually distribute. They're kind of in that higher, what they call the primary entry point part of the structure, and so they're an integral part of delivering the national messages. But I am, I'm a little, I am a bit concerned in regards to EAS, and during this proceeding, I had went ahead and I had to go out of scope because there were certain things that I needed to mention that needed to get on the record. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that the quality of the alerts that we are getting was, is a disaster. We had last year we had tornado warnings here on the Eastern Shore, and the messages that were coming into our EAS. Now, keep in mind, we get pretty good solid signals, especially from WSCL, which is our LP1. We are at about 70, I think we're at 76 dB. We're in their 76 dB service contour. They've got a nice, huge facility up in north of Seaford here, Seaford, Delaware. They're actually going to be getting a power increase here pretty soon here. They've got a granted CP. We're just waiting for them. Actually, that's going to actually help us and bring up their signal about another half a dB or so here. And then we have WQHQ, which is an iHeart station that's over to the east of us. That probably puts in a probably like a high 60s dB signal. So we got two signals that are coming in. We have an antenna in the attic here that receives. We use that strictly for receiving EAS as well as for receiving OTA television here. And, you know, we get pretty good signals. We get pretty reliable signals, but the signals that are being picked up and recorded on the EAS are atrocious. And sometimes the volume is like really low. Sometimes it's really one will broadcast really low. One will broadcast overmodulated. And then I guess I'm not too familiar with the same protocol that's used by the National Weather Service for the alerts, for their alerts. But I'm assuming that it broadcasts a subaudible tone. And when you listen to this one audio that came on this one tornado warning that I saved and posted on my SoundCloud, you could definitely tell that there was a subaudible PL tone in there. And you could tell. And it just dominated. You know, it just dominated the system. And, and I said in there, look, National Weather Service, they need to fix their text-to-speech. They need to get something clear. There's a lot newer technology that's out there right now. The text-to-speech that's currently on J1. You go listen to J1 and you go listen to the text-to-speech that runs on the traffic and travel reports at 15 and 45 after the hour. That is Microsoft Cognitive Services. That's the Microsoft text-to-speech. And it sounds much better. And I believe they've got something now. I don't know if I'm on it or not. I've got to check my code. But they've got now something called Neural Voices on Microsoft text-to-speech, which is supposed to sound even more natural. Now, if we can just get the English announcer, if we can get the English text-to-speech voice to properly pronounce Japanese words that are written in Romaji, that would be fantastic. I had to do so much work to get a lot of those place names in there correctly. So, the issue, of course, comes up with what about EAS? And one of the things that they want to do in this there's a few things they wanted to do. First of all, the national alerts, versus presidential alerts, that's a given. That's got to be changed. I totally support that idea, because the idea is that the header that comes up on the wireless emergency alert should relate to the subject of the message or the nature of the message, not who originated the message. It's like, it's the president that originated this message, so, the king has spoken, No, let's not do that. Let's not do that. That's not the idea here. 1-855-HI-MICHI, 1-855-HI-MICHI is the number to call, and I guess I'm just going to have to check this thing every so often here. Like I said, we're experimenting here today. We've got the Rodecaster Pro working, and hopefully, for those of you who remember the audio from before versus the audio now, I hope there's some improvement. I really do. I don't know if our audio is too hot or what's going on, but I hope that our audio is is in there and is doing better. But yeah, we've just we've made a few little changes here. We're preparing for we've got this thing set up for the earthquakes. I mean, we could we could easily switch over to a earthquake monitoring screen for Japan, and then if little messages appear at the top of the screen, we can bring it down here. And in worst case scenarios, we can drop it into tsunami mode. So there you go. That's tsunami mode. If there was an active tsunami right now, that left screen would be listing wave heights and arrival times at certain locations. So that's how that works. And so we have monitors in there for that. The same information goes out on the j1fm.tokyo website. So yeah, there's a lot of neat stuff there. But back to, so this is I am a huge supporter of emergency alerting. I think emergency alerting is a great thing. What I don't like is the American red tape. It's easier for me to get emergency alerts from Japan and Canada being physically here in the United States than it is for me to get emergency alerts from the United States. Go figure. And it's all because the FCC and FEMA are paranoid about people breaking into iPause Open and sending fake alerts. I got news for you. It's not happening. We had, the FCC is also, there's also some language in this NPRM about about false alerts. And and they keep harping on this one case, which is the Hawaii case that happened a few years ago, back in 2018, where the people in Hawaii received an emergency alert that stated that there was an incoming missile coming. There were incoming missiles coming into Hawaii. Hawaii was under attack. It was Pearl Harbor 2.0. I mean, that's what they, and it turned out that it was caused by a state employee who was working an emergency drill and clicked the wrong option on a screen. And that's what did it. And now we're in this ultra paranoia mode at the FCC and FEMA. I mean, they're doing all this damage control to try to save face. And, and we still, independent developers still do not have access to iPause Open to be able to develop tools that could be used very much in the streaming, especially in the streaming industry, that, that small and medium-sized streamers like J1. J1's not a big streamer. We're small potatoes. We are small potatoes compared to the big names out there. But, I would love to be able to run emergency alerts, Amber Alerts, and such like that for the primary areas where my listeners are on this side of the Pacific, and that's specifically California, Southern California. And one of the issues that we're going to bring up in the notice of inquiry is FCC wants to extend this to streaming. The problem is that the only way that somebody can truly monitor EAS, there's two ways to monitor EAS. And that is either being physically in that area and monitoring it over the air, over your LP1, LP2 stations, or through iPause Open or Open iPause, whatever you want to call it. iPause Open. There we go. I said it. iPause Open. And the problem is, right now, I've got a DASDEC 2, which, of course, is a certified device. It has the most current security certificate. So I am getting weekly tests, including the one that came this past week from iPause that FEMA went out and said that not everybody got it. We got it here. The report was, I guess, from what I'm understanding on that issue, just sidetracking for a second, there was issue this week with RWT that came out from FEMA, that some decoders did not pick it up, and based on some of the scuttle that I've been hearing on the forums, is that apparently, I guess it was associated with Sage equipment. So apparently those with Sages didn't get it, but those with DASDECs did get it. So I mean, I guess they're going to be looking into that and seeing what's going on, because some of you all out there, you check your logs, you didn't get your RWT this week from IPAWS. That's the reason why. 1-855-HIMICHI, 1-855-HIMICHI. And it's a good way to get me to shut up. You know that? It's a good way to get the Michi to shut up, is by, calling and steering the conversation. Or 1-855-HIMICHI, 1-855-HIMICHI. There we go. I know you're wondering yourself. Okay, and you want to do that, go to YouTube and go to the chat and pop in the chat. I see a lot of Ricky Lee here. Ricky's doing well there. Hopefully he hasn't partied too much and torn up Bristol that bad. But yeah, I hope all's going well and everybody's safe out there. Back to IPAWS really quickly here, because what we're trying to do is, there's a few of us out there that want to see the ability for independent developers, especially, for independent developers to be able to have read-only access into IPAWS. So that way we're able to at least get in there and read the messages and be able to build equipment or software that will do something with that. I'm in the process. One of my builds right now, one of the projects I'll be working on here in the next few months, is going to be as an outboard software that's going to interface with my DASDEC 2 to pull the IPAWS messages off, including the audio, and be able to insert them into J1 and be able to insert them. So if California gets an Amber Alert, we'd be able to break into the channels, play the alert, and then go back to regular programming already in progress. We have that already right now for Japan. We can break in right now we have the ability to break in. If something happens, you're going to hear it on this stream too, because we've got it all wired in. This stream, this audio chain that we have right now is wired into everything. So, if there was a major emergency right now in Japan, if there was like a 6 or magnitude 7 earthquake in Japan right now, we'd be cutting off. This screen would be going up onto maybe something like this to start with. And, there'd be information flashing across the top of the screen. That's the way things are set up right now. And we did some work this past weekend, to make that happen. One of the things that we did was, okay, I'm going to stop right there because I am drifting. I am very much drifting. I do want to talk about this stuff. And I've got time to talk about it because it's not like I'm really doing anything else right now. And I've had so many people say, when are you going to do another live stream? Well, here it is. Here it is. We've got things set up more together now. So hopefully we'll be able to better do live streams. We'll be able to better do things on the fly. And, and I can just sit here and rant and rave and do whatever. Or you can call me 1-855-HIMICHI, 1-855-HIMICHI, or, chat. Chat. There we go. Got to get used to doing that. Chat. There you go. But yeah, I have some serious issues right now with iPause Open, and not to mention the issue with independent developers being able to get read-only access to be able to build devices. And I would love to see required, those who are required to have EAS, but on decode only, which is mainly low-power FM stations, low-power TV stations, and very small cable head ends, be able to use a non-certified device that is at a much lower price point. We had a conversation the other day about this with somebody who is in the grassroots radio community, and we were talking about the whole EAS open source concept and hardware and such. And what he told me is that we could put together a piece of hardware, which, I would assume would include, a couple radio receivers. They could be just SDRs. They could be easily done with SDRs. A pair of SDRs. And and the ability to be able to monitor iPause Open. And be able to put this in equipment that would be able to interfere, to be able to interface and be able to interrupt the audio chain, record the messages, do the logging and all that. That could be built for under $1,000. Yet Digital Alert Systems and Sage and everybody's going to be charging $3,500 for a piece of equipment because it's a captive audience and because the FCC requires certified equipment, even for decode only. This goes back to a conversation I had with one of the people who was the head of alerting at FEMA, explaining what we could do. And it's like, well, you wouldn't be able to properly send the header tones. If you're the last station in the food chain, meaning you're decode only, it doesn't matter what the header tones sound like. As an LPFM, you're not even required to air the header tones. That's my understanding. I'd have to, you're not required to originate. You could just come on and go, boop, air, emergency alert. The header tones, that frequency shift keying, that thing. You're not required to do that. You could, I would strongly suggest you keep that in there as well as the attention, and especially the attention signal. The attention signal, you definitely want to make sure that stays in there. And, you can, and that's how you can do it. To me, I don't see any reason why we can't do that. And also, too, if we're going to have streaming providers coming in, which I hope that there is nobody anywhere over there on that side of the Chesapeake. Hello? I'm hoping there's nobody thinking that they want to make some kind of a mandatory thing for streaming providers to carry EAS. That I will shoot that down like a bomb. I will not stand for it. I just don't want to see that because that has a far-reaching effect. Because where do you draw the line? What's considered a streamer? What is considered a streaming service? Okay, YouTube is a streaming service. So is Spotify, Pandora. But J1, Delmarva FM, anything that is streaming an audio signal but is not actually over a terrestrial broadcast station or over a cable system. Yes, happy 420 day. It is 420 day. And hopefully, wherever you are, whether it's legal or whether it's medically required and you're medically qualified, hopefully you're enjoying some 420 today. Imagine that coming from the Michi. Oh, there's a lot of things about me that you don't know. 1855 Hi Michi. And no, that does not mean that I'm high. That's H-I, not H-I-G-H. What else is happening here? This week we have a commission meeting is coming up this week on Thursday. On Thursday, there's actually a few items of interest on this agenda that we need to talk about. I was just chatting with a member of the trade media here just a little bit ago on a couple of the items that are up on the agenda this coming month. First one is the NCE, the non-commercial educational window. Now, a lot of us have been waiting to figure out, to see when this window is going to start, when the commission is going to freeze the spectrum and allow us consulting engineer type people to do our work and to be able to find, to be able to know what's going to be available and try to work on getting a ton of new stations on the air, mostly in rural areas because of the availability in this window, and that's really what brought us up to this upcoming issue. The FCC, as we expected, the FCC had put out a notice of proposed rulemaking. It was more of a public notice than an NPRM, seeking comment on the application cap, the maximum number of applications that could be filed by one organization in this window. Back in 2007, the FCC had an application cap of 10. No organization could file more than 10 applications in the window. And this was to prevent, any kind of speculation. I wish we had this back in 2003 for the translator window. But, that's really what, hopefully they've learned their lesson, hopefully. Who? I have no idea who that is. I get all kinds of weird calls. Yes, I do get a lot of neighbors spoofing over here. Sorry for banging the microphone. That's just one of those phones that you can't turn it down. So, at least the other phone I can turn down. That one you can't. But anyway, so they're talking about an application cap of 10. REC had said, look, we did the numbers. We looked at the national availability of NCE availability throughout the country. And, honestly, it didn't look good for the metro areas. I mean, I think all the top 100 rated markets, I think most of them are going to be just complete unavailable and remember, this window is only for those bottom 20 channels, 88.1 through 91.9. That's it. So, I mean, if you're an existing LPFM and you want to graduate and you want to play in this window, well, guess what? You may have to do a channel change in order to do this. And it's really the most rural areas. I think out of all the rated markets, I think the first market that we found a very wide availability in was Texarkana, Texas. That's the highest rated market that we had wide availability in. So if you're in Texarkana, give me a call and we'll discuss that. 1-844 REC-LPFM during for that kind of thing. 1-844 REC-LPFM or 202-621-2355. There we go. Cheap, shameless plug for me. Why not? So as a result of this lack of availability, I pushed for a application limit of 5 because there really was not going to be there was really not going to be a lot of availability. And the last thing I want to see is, and we'll talk about that WFAS thing here in just a bit, because that was some interesting news that came out today, and I do want to talk about that. So good, thanks for bringing that up. Anyway, after being derailed on that, going back to the cap, I was saying, look, there's not that much availability, so let's go for a 5 cap. There were some in the grassroots radio community that wanted a 2 cap, and I would not go that low. I refused to go that low. 5 cap is what we called for, mainly stating because of the lack of availability, we wanted to make sure that the MX groups, the groups of mutually exclusive applications, stayed small, and that some national interest wasn't going to come in and put in this huge application somewhere in the middle of nowhere that would turn maybe 3 small MX groups into one huge mega group. Kind of like, in a daisy chain effect, kind of like what happened in Hawaii back in 2007, where you had like over wasn't it like nearly 100 applications or something like that spread throughout the entire Hawaiian Islands, and there was only one winner in the whole bunch. And that kind of a thing that recalls a lot of efforts, a lot of us who are in support of some method of a secondary grant, where if an applicant gets granted, an MX applicant gets granted, and then it results in another applicant's one or more applicants being orphaned and being in a situation where they could be granted too, why not let them have the grant? FCC doesn't allow that right now. It says this, it's their policies against secondary grants. And, we brought this up a lot of times. It came up in the 2013 window. It came up in 2007. It came up in the recent 19193 proceeding. Actually, no, the 193 proceeding, the administrative one. And there was these renewed efforts to try to get some kind of policy regarding secondary grants. And that's just, unfortunately, the FCC is not going to fly with that. And yeah, there is a little bit of an extra issue with, what would be fair? What would be fair in a secondary grant situation? But I just wanted to keep the groups small, and I wanted to make sure that more local applicants get it. There is a provision in the Communications Act. It's Section 307B that Congress mandates that the FCC, has to equally grant licenses based on equally and fair and equal among the communities. And this is why the FCC gives preference to applications that are either the first or second educational service in an area. So if you can find an area where there's currently, where within the 60 dB contour there's no full service stations between 88 and 92, and you find an area that there's currently, like I said, either 0 or 1, most preferably 0, and you're able to propose a 60 dB contour that puts first service over for at least 2,000 people in that area. Well, guess what? You've got priority. You just completely overrode the point system, and you've got priority over anybody else, including a local applicant who maybe wants to put a community station in, an alternate voice, a voice for for maybe a community that doesn't have an independent voice. Maybe they've got an NPR, maybe they've got a faith-based or an EMF or something like that there, and they want a community voice. Well, one of the big chain Bible casters, and not necessarily EMF, but there's many others out there, may propose a site somewhere in the middle of nowhere as a big Class B or Class C 100,000 watt facility, putting this humongous 60 dB contour with maybe some wild pie in the sky directional pattern that they probably could never do, and get priority. Now, of course, the one thing is that you need to make sure, you got to realize too, is that if you do take advantage of the 307 priority, you have to build like you proposed. So if you say, yeah, we're proposing to bring first service to 20,000 people, you can't just turn around and then say, oh, we're just going to build this little Class A that maybe hits about maybe like 3,000 people. You wouldn't be able to do that. If you got the channel in that way, see, that wouldn't be fair. That wouldn't be fair to the other applicants. So at least there is that safeguard. And there's also a couple other rules regarding having to wait 4 years, unless you give if you want to assign your license to somebody else, and unless that group also meets the same guidelines and requirements. We actually took some of the rules regarding assignments from the non-commercial full power world, and we brought those into the LPFM world in MB Docket 19-3. So there's actually some consistency now between the two rules. So anyway, I was pushing for 5. Educational Media Foundation, and in case you don't know who they are known as K-Love and Air One. And now they have something called what? K1 K-Love Classics. There we go. Contemporary Christian music oldies. That's an interesting twist on the format. What they wanted to do was they wanted to say, okay, here's what you can do. You can specify 10 applications that are priority applications, that are applications that cover at least, that cover a market, or at least half of a market. And anything else is fair game. And, I jumped down their throat on that. And I said, look, we just showed that there's no metro market availability. Most of the availability is going to be rural, which under EMF's idea would means that they would have unlimited filing. And that's not what we want. So here we are with this really low-end 5. EMF coming in with this crazy pie-in-the-sky, difficult to administer kind of idea. So the FCC said, screw it. We're just going to do it like we did it back in 2007. 10 cap. My reaction, I'm good with it. I would rather have the 10 cap than have what EMF is proposing. There's still going to be games. We're still going to have our game players out there. We're still going to need to be vigilantly watching the applications like we had to in the 2013 window. Caesar Guel. Okay? We're still going to have to watch those things coming up in this window. But in this window, instead of a 1 cap, we have a 10 cap. So there's a little less room to, to do anything there. The other thing that's come up in this upcoming meeting and this really doesn't affect a lot of you. It affects you only if you are involved in a station that's running programming from a foreign government source, and that is the identification of foreign government programming is coming up. The draft of the order, the draft report and order, pretty much reduces the scope down to what some of us have been saying the whole time. Originally, the FCC wanted, wanted to paint wanted to address a very narrow issue with a hugely broad brush and just say, look, if you have any kind of programming on your station, regardless of whether they paid you, you paid them, nobody paid anybody, and there is involvement in that programming of any kind of funding from a foreign government entity, then you have to disclose before the program that this program is coming to you from a foreign government entity. And APTS, which is America's Public Television Stations, basically the trade industry group that represents the PBS stations. They went ballistic on this and said, look, you take a British show that that if a city government participates in the production, such as closing the streets, providing props, providing police cars, props, whatever, are we now going to have to say that is a federal government or government funded program? That's not the idea. That was not the idea of why this is the reason why this whole thing is a controversy in the first place. And this whole controversy started in the previous administration, was the fact that the Russian government started purchasing airtime on a station in the Washington, D.C. area. They bought airtime on an AM station which had an FM translator, and they bought 24/7 time, a Radio Sputnik. And they did it through a third party, Russian corporation who is registered actually as a foreign agent. And then it goes through a third-party distributor in the United States, who is the one that actually writes the checks and distributes the programming to the station. Same time this was happening, we had another situation going on the West Coast, where an organization called Phoenix TV, where there's been a lot of allegations that this group is influenced severely by the Chinese Communist government, was applying for what's called a 325 authorization. And this is the permission to use a foreign broadcast station to send programming to the United States. This is also known as the Border Blaster Rule. This is where stations in Mexico, and this basically targets Mexico. It's stations that are in Mexico that are being used to broadcast programming to the United States. And there's they have to follow some various FCC rules and such, and they want to make sure that those stations are playing fair in the American radio markets. And I mean, the original intention was because there were people going on to those Mexican stations and basically selling snake oil and selling all kinds of weird stuff, and making all kinds of weird statements and stuff like that back in the early days. So hence the Border Blaster Rule. So they wanted, REC's position was, look, we know why you want to do this. It's because you want to deal with the broadcasters who are being paid by foreign governments, either directly or indirectly, to air their propaganda. That's why you're doing this. That you're doing this so that way they can air their propaganda, and and make a profit off of it. Basically making a profit off of foreign propaganda. That's what, that was the main concern. That was really, they couldn't say it like that out loud up front because, God forbid, it might be discrimination. I don't know. I mean, so REC's position was very simple, is that we knew that, and we knew what the true cause was. But when you start trying to put this on non-commercial stations whose objective is not to make a profit or more or less dole out, in most cases, foreign propaganda, we have public television stations, including the ones here in Maryland, that are running NHK World on a digital subchannel. We have NPR affiliate type stations across the country. We have public stations across the country who are purchasing BBC World Service programming from American Public Media. We have Deutsche Welles on some things. We have, we're trying to push NHK right now to allow, terrestrial broadcasters here, radio stations, to run some NHK World programming. There's a lot that we could, there's a lot of culture that could be brought into this country, and it should not be put under the same umbrella as foreign propaganda that some government is paying to play in the United States. And so what we said was very simple. We want a blanket exemption on non-commercial stations. Non-commercial stations are not even allowed to sell airtime for a profit. You can charge somebody no more than what you would pay to produce, and the programming. So yeah, you can charge them a little bit for electricity. You can charge them, you can justify a very nominal small airtime rate, but you can't use that to make a profit. You can't use that to fundraise. Every penny that comes in has to go out. Simple as that. So what we said was just exempt NCE stations from this rule completely, and you can do whatever you want on the commercial side. Now, of course, NAB is, still has concerns over everything, and and I am not getting involved in the commercial side of this battle. I was asked about that this morning by a member of the media, and I said, no, I'm not getting involved in the commercial side on this one. There's enough issue right now on the non-commercial side. I do not want to get involved. Let NPR do the fight on that side. There are times when REC and NPR actually agree on things. Yes, we do agree on some things. But, this is one of those where I said, look, I'll take the non-com. You guys take the commercial. Run with it. And so the FCC in their draft circulation order is saying now that, okay, here's what's going to happen. If the foreign government agent organization is actually paying the station, the station's getting remuneration for this, meaning, in other words, a time brokerage agreement, then yeah, you have to disclose. However, because of some other law in the Communications Act, if you're not getting remuneration, if they're providing you the programming, regardless, or even if you are getting paid, and this, as if the programming contains what they call, quote, political and controversial issues, then it has to be disclosed. And they give an example of where a program provided by a foreign government, is suggesting maybe the election or the defeat of a certain political candidate as programming that would fall under that nature. And in that is the one narrow area where it would apply to non-commercial stations. And and if you're a public TV station and you're carrying NHK World, even the news broadcasts on NHK World. I watch NHK World all the time. It's a great network. And I'll tell you, I never, most of the programming on there is cultural. Even the news programming is not. It reports the news without really giving an opinion. I mean, if you want more of an opinion, then you need to go to NHK Domestic Television, pay the $25 a month, subscribe to TV Japan, and learn Japanese. And then you'll get some more political opinion. So that's where we're at on that. So this one is coming out. I have no objection really to what the FCC's decision on this one. I'm agreeing with the FCC on this one. There's also another issue that I have not really looked into, but I will review it. And maybe if necessary, we'll put out something or put out an advisory letter if it really impacts us. And has to do with Part 74 licensed wireless microphones. Again, I have no information on this one yet, and I've not really had a chance to work on this one. But those are the three media issues that are in this upcoming meeting on Thursday. Question is are we going to stream it? I don't know. We might try to stream it. If not, the meetings are streamed by the FCC by going to fcc.gov, fcc.gov/live. That's where you'd want to go is fcc.gov, fcc.gov/live. Anyway, here 1-855 hi Michi if you want to talk. If you have any questions about any of this stuff that we've talked about here for the past hour or so, feel free to drop it my way. 1230 WFAS. I saw this in Radio Insight today. This is a Class C station in New York City area, north of New York City. And they have filed a digital notification to go MA3 all digital HD radio on AM. I think this is great. I am a supporter, despite what some people have said about me lately. I am a supporter of all digital AM radio. I did raise an issue with WMGG down in Egypt Lake, Florida, because they jumped the gun. They filed a digital notification, and then filed their digital notification saying that they were going to be turning on in like 3 days or 4 days. And I objected to that, saying, look, we set up the rule originally as 30 days. And the reason why we did that, number one, was so that way other stations, would be informed. So in case there was nighttime interference, other stations would be informed. But also, too, because of the public, the listening public needs to be informed. Now, WFAS, which apparently is owned by Cumulus. I don't know if there's a sale pending or not on that. But WFAS did the right thing. They filed their digital notification. Now, the new form is not out yet. The FCC is kind of allowing you to use the old form for doing that. You just have to add some additional information. And they have announced a date more than 30 days out. Looking at their digital notification right now, as soon as this computer cooperates with me. And they are preparing to go fully digital on May 24th. So, and here's the interesting thing about them is they don't have a translator. Most of who you would hear that, the real target is going to be, because this is one of the drawbacks. This is one of the things that people objected about on digital AM was who would go to this and basically kill all their analog listeners if there's not enough digital radios out there? Well, apparently this is New York City. And this is a Class A, and they were just getting ready to do a format change. So this is the best time to do it. But usually, many of them would have a translator. You know, what's going on down in MGG? They have a translator. The Gamut, the original 820, they've got a translator. The one in New York City does not. And they put out a thing on their website, their Facebook, this little message that just basically states, yeah, in 30 days we're going to digital. If you have a digital HD receiver, fantastic, you'll be able to pick us up on 1230. Is it 1230 or 1240? I think it's 1230 because 1240 is Long Island. 1230. You'll be able to pick us up on the digital radio, but if you don't, you're going to have to listen on the stream. So they are using the stream as their fallout for it. So they're hoping to recover their analog only listeners by switching them over to the stream versus over the air. Now remember, this is a small Class C 1000 watt station. Transmitters up around White Plains. Barely puts a 2 millivolt into Manhattan, from what I can see. Probably not that great coverage at all. Anyway, I'm not up in New York City. I don't hear these stations, so I don't know what kind of coverage that they have, but I think it's great that they're doing this. And I would think that in somewhere like New York City, and especially up in that northern part up there in Westchester County and up to the north there, as you're leaving the 5 boroughs, you're more likely to have folks with newer cars with HD radios in them. So I think they're doing the right thing here. They're playing by the rules. They're doing the 30 days. And I wish them the best of luck with the station. I wish them the best of luck with the digital operation. And I hope it all works out well for them. It'll be interesting to see where the next all digital is going to go. It all depends on the consumer electronics industry needs to get off their rear ends and support the HD rollout. Xperi needs to do something about their hardware prices, their royalties, and Nautel and Gates Air, who make the equipment. You all really need to think about your pricing, because HD radio is still very much out of reach for many broadcasters. Yet there's so many benefits from going digital on FM and all digital AM. I will say that hybrid AM digital, where you're running both digital sidebands and an analog AM carrier, that is a disaster. I do not support hybrid AM digital, but I very much support FM and LPFM's operating HD radio. I am an HD radio supporter. We just recently, here in the past few months, we just turned on KBUU LP in Malibu, California. They're dealing with some studio to transmitter link issues right now, and trying to get all their HD stuff working and on the air. And hopefully we'll have, we've got them. We've got KXRN down in Laguna Beach, California. They're digital. And, what's their call letters? The one in Miami. The the Miami LPFM. There's a Miami LPFM whose call letters escape my mind right now. And they're all digital. And of course, the first of the LPFM digitals, the Christian school up in Vacaville, up in Northern California, they're running digital. WMXR, that's the one that's in Miami. WMXR LP on 92.7, and they're running HD. So yeah, we've got HD radio brewing. I am in talks right now with at least one other LP who is seriously considering digital. I've got another one who we're starting to do the digital sell on them. And to me, I think it's a great thing because it brings more choices and more voices to the air. And especially if you're like out in the West where you have a decent service contour because of our friend called the Foothill Effect, then you'll be able to get some pretty good coverage off of there. 1-855 Hi Michi, 1-855 HIMICHI. I see I've been doing this for nearly an hour and a half, going nonstop. But we have listeners, and that's what matters. If you can't call, drop a message in the chat here on YouTube, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. I mean, do you have any questions? Let's see. FCC sent out a reminder today. Do not use your amateur or personal radio device for the commission of a crime. They sent one of these out right after the Capitol incident. And they sent one out again today. Said, the Enforcement Bureau, the FCC, issues this enforcement advisory to again remind licensees in the amateur radio service as well as licensees and operators in the personal radio services that the Commission prohibits the use of radios in those services to commit or facilitate criminal acts. The Bureau recognizes these services can be used for a wide range of permitted and socially beneficial activities, including emergency communication and speech that is protected under the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. However, and in big bold print, amateur and personal radio services, however, may not be used to commit or facilitate crimes. So there you go. Questions come up regarding renewals. And we are currently on several states right now for the renewals. Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Nevada, and Idaho. I think I got them all in there that time. And I think we got a phone call. Let's see. Does this work? Hello?
Yeah, it works. How's it going?
I'm doing pretty good.
I heard you talking about the LPFMs going all digital, or not all digital, but digital and analog. But my question is, have transmitters come along with any better options for LPFMs trying to go HD? Because when I first heard about the one in California, the Christian school, they had to get theirs modified. And are there any transmitters out there that are just ready to go now?
Well, here's the way it works with there's two options that are currently available, and we just got the second option certified just recently with the FCC through the FCC lab process. You can either go it does require multiple pieces of equipment, and there's a Gates Air solution, and the Gates Air has always been the one that's always been certified the whole time. Actually, when the Vacaville station got theirs, it wasn't certified. They were running uncertified gear, but that's now water under the bridge because what they have now is certified. But the Gates Air solution, basically, it's a transmitter, and what they do is they install a separate board inside. There's a daughter board that's installed inside that transmitter that supports the HD, and that's what brings the HD into the Gates Air equipment. KBUU in Malibu just got the Gates Air install. The one in Miami's Gates Air. I think they've got a Nautel as a backup. And the one in Laguna, I believe, is Gates Air. And so the Gates Air solution is that way. Now for the Nautel, which is the other certified solution, if you have a VS300 transmitter, if you go analog only and you buy the VS300, you're in the starting point, because then what you have to do is there's a separate piece of equipment called the VSHD, and the VSHD is the second item that will be on the rack, and that actually includes the exciter for that includes a separate exciter. And the problem that we had originally was that the exciter in the VS300 was certified, but the exciter, they used a different model of, different design of exciter for the VSHD. And when you have the VSHD involved in that installation, that exciter board that's in the VS300 is completely disabled. And the VSHD's exciter board now covers your analog and your digital. The problem was it wasn't certified. So I worked very closely with Nautel over these past few months to say, what can we do to get this certified? And surprise came to me was I received word that that the combination is now FCC certified. I went online, verified it. It's good. So yeah, you have two choices right now. You have a Gates Air solution and you have a Nautel solution. And
what are I have no idea what this costs at this moment. What are those costs?
I'm telling people to budget about $25K for the whole thing, because you've also got, if you're going to be doing multi-channel, if you're going to be doing the multicast, then you're going to have extra equipment on there that you're going to need to do to the combiners and stuff like that you're going to need. For an LPFM or any non-com, there's going to be $5,000 licensing through Xperi, through what used to be Ubiquiti. But they'll break that up into annual payments, $2,000 up front this year and then $500 a year until it's paid off. But those are the solutions. One of these days, I'd love to get Hans on here from KBUU to talk about what he did to get that process. I mean, I was with him for most of that process, and we kind of walked through this together, and and got them through this process. But and it was actually what happened with Hans at KBUU, where he originally went with Nautel, just to have Nautel turn around and say, we can't sell it to you because it's not certified. And that's when I started to put pressure on Nautel. You didn't hear me talk anything about this publicly. This was stuff that was happening behind the scenes. Not everything that I do goes out on Facebook. I'll tell you that much. But we definitely did some work with Nautel, and they had a few ideas up their sleeves that I'm not really at liberty to talk about. But lo and behold, their solution was very simple: was to send the VS300, the VSHD to the lab and get a certification with a VS300 VSHD combination. So that's pretty much that's pretty much where we're at right now, and this is why I've been pushing for pricing to come down on just been trying to push for the pricing to come down on the equipment, so that way more stations can get on board, because I would love if I had a station here, I would love to run HD, even though I hardly have an audience. But just the idea of allowing people to have a choice of channels, and especially in this multi-channel universe right now that we're in, where, I mean, you're streaming, I mean, we're running 3 different music channels right now on J1 alone, and how many are on Spotify, So, people want content, and people want choice.
Yeah, and I noticed that I got an HD radio in my old car,
Mm-hmm.
one of those aftermarket ones, and I was like, that was a lot cooler than I thought. The
Yeah.
sound quality was amazing, and then I was like checking all these side channels, and there's an oldie station that I like to listen on analog, but now I can hear it on digital with
Mm-hmm.
my HD radio because they use one of their big sister stations side channels, and
Yeah.
so I was like, it's cool. It won't work for our LPFM right now because we're too far away from good population. So,
Yeah.
but in a filing window when we can move, I'd like to consider the options. So that's why I was curious about it.
Right. And, so, and I kind of had, out here on Delmarva, we really don't have any HD radio. I mean, I've got an HD portable receiver and FM, one of those that you get at Best Buy. And I don't pick up anything here. There's supposedly HD on the eastern part of the eastern shore, like over by Ocean City, Rehoboth Beach, out that way. Supposedly there's some HD out there. I don't pick it up out here. I'm more central western portion of the Delmarva Peninsula, where I'm at. But I did bring that radio with me when I traveled to Los Angeles a couple of years ago, and I'll tell you, it was really neat hearing, hearing the HD radio stations, and and I mean, when when the streaming first came out, when the streaming was starting to get popular, and you were able to like pick up stations, like for example, when I lived in Southern California a good chunk of my life, and I would listen to like KNX 1070, the news station, all news all the time station out there. And and obviously you're used to hearing it in AM. You're used to hearing it with the noise, with the degraded bandwidth, and then you hear the same station on a stream, and it just sounds so crisp, and you're thinking to yourself, "Whoa!" And then out in Los Angeles, a lot of the AM stations that are co-owned, will have their will be on their FM's HDs. Like KFI, I think, is on one of Coast's HD channels, and KNX is on there somewhere, and and all the different stations, all the different AM stations are on there. And to me, I think if people were able to use this, and there was more of awareness. I mean, the industry did try to get people interested in HD radio, but the industry did not. The consumer electronics industry really did not really pick up on this and didn't really catch the signal.
Yeah, there were so many, even after it came out, so many cars that you still couldn't get it in.
Oh yeah, and also too, what bugged me was my main rental car is Avis. I use Avis, and I have yet to ever get an Avis car that has HD in it. I don't think they just don't exist. And I think the reason for this, and they will not say this though, is because of a sweetheart deal with Sirius XM. That they will, that's my suspicion, that they will put in a non-HD capable receiver, but one of those that you can switch over and get to Sirius XM, because they want to sell the Sirius XM package. They sell it to you for like $8 a day or something like that. If you, it's a premium on the rental car. It's one of those nickel and dime things, kind of like the bag fees at the airlines. It's a nickel and dime kind of thing. So, oh wow, we're getting viewers here. Wow. Starting to pick up. And, for those of you who are not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. Get me up to 1 million. Got a long way to go, though. Get me up to at least
the info.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. If you ever have any questions, feel free to call, and hopefully we'll do another one of these live streams, and we'll do another live video thing like this and be able to do these call-ins. So 1-855 Hi Michi. Did you have anything else, or?
Well, All right, that's it for now. If I think of something else, I'll give you
Absolutely. Feel free feel free to pop on the chat, and
thank you.
we can chat here. Take care. See, how easy was that? How easy was that? Call just comes in 1-855-HI-MICHI, 1-855-HI-MICHI. Last caller just proved you can do it. It works. Here we go. We are elevating here because of doing this. Now we're running the just so you know, and this is not a paid announcement or anything like that, but this is all courtesy of the Rodecaster Pro. This is a neat little box. I don't have a camera locked in on it, but I do have the instruction card, and there it is. It is the Rodecaster Pro. Oh, we're having fun. And let's see. We had a question that came up before the call in regard to filing windows. Our next filing window, where we talked about Arizona, Idaho, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming. And that is currently right now we have a June 1st deadline on that. So if you have, if you're in one of those places, you need to file your renewal. I always tell people to file renewal in the last week or so before the deadline, because that way, if there's any changed circumstances that happen between now and the deadline date, or actually between now and the time that your license expires, that less of a chance that you have to amend it to add that additional information. Like, for example, you go silent. Remember, the FCC will not, they will hold off a grant of a renewal while a station is silent. So if you are silent, you still need to file a renewal. You still need to file that renewal on time, even if your station is silent. And then what will happen is that after you go back on the air, as long as it's within that 1 year since you went silent, and you file your resumption of operation, you also have to amend your renewal application and change the no question, the silent station question from a no to a yes. And then eventually that will get you back up and running again. The FCC will eventually look at it, and then we'll grant, your application. Now, also a reminder to stations that if you filed on time, period, regardless if you filed on time or not, as long as you filed before the expiration date, if you still haven't been granted by the expiration date, as long as you filed, you have the authority to continue broadcasting. Now, the FCC has been granting the renewals about 2 weeks prior to the expirations. The ones that we call clean renewals. A clean renewal is one where you just answer you're able to answer yes to all the questions. The answers are truthful. There's been no silent periods, no notices of violation, no issues, no criminal convictions of any of your board members or anything like that. As long as it's a clean renewal and it's filed before the before the filing deadline, 4 months before the expiration, those are clean renewals. Those will usually get granted right about a week or two before. Now, the FCC does not send you anything to tell you that it's renewed. And, normally they'll send you like if they grant a construction permit, they'll send you an email with a copy of the authorization. They're not doing this for renewals. So the only ways that you can figure out whether you have a renewal or not, is granted or not, is to go to the FCC website, go to their LMS system, and try to have to meander through the public view on that. Or you can go to recnet.com/renewal-status. recnet.com/renewal-status. Type in your LPFM call sign, and it will give you an update on where things are. That is tied into our ELMS system, which updates every 10 minutes throughout the day. So we watch everything that comes in from the FCC, and everything gets updated in near real time. So after this, we're going to have the California is next. Now, California, you're going to have a deadline of August 2. So August 2 is your deadline with an expiration of December 1st. And then after that will be, and this will be an answer to the question that came in on the chat, will be for Oregon, Washington, Alaska, Hawaii, Guam, and American Samoa. And that is going to be that filing due date is on October 1st. So if you're in one of those states, Oregon, Washington, Alaska, Hawaii, Guam, or American Samoa, and actually also the CNMI, the CNMI, the Saipan, that area, you're going to be on October 1st, and then we shift to the east. We shift up to New England next. And next will be the New England states, Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont, December 1st. New York, New Jersey, you're in there for February 1st, 2022. And then the last group to go is Delaware and Pennsylvania for April 1st of 2022. So that's what we've got there. Have you seen any N+1 synced LPFMs? I'm not understanding what you mean by N+1. Not sure what you mean. How to get station from LBZA on HD radio side channel if I own station? Ryan, Arizona is right now. Arizona is right now. You have until June 1st. So, file in like the last couple weeks before, if you want to get with me, we'll work on the renewal. Normally I do the renewals in like after the in your case, like after May 16th. And I think this goes back to the old days of, back in the old days of the old public notice announcements where, you had to run announcements on the 1st and the 16th and the 2 months before and such. I've never heard of any stations. Well, I've never heard any stations that you would call like GPS synced, unless you're thinking of like boosters. Where you have two stations that are, operating simultaneously. I don't know if that's what you're thinking of. I'm still a bit unclear on that one. Keep in mind, I am not a super technical star. I am more of a armchair person who deals mainly with regulatory side. I do know some technical issues. I'm most of what I know is on the regulatory side. So, I mean, if somebody was to ask me, how to build a studio or how to convert my studio from analog to digital, I would have to refer you on. That is just, unfortunately, that's not my skill set. Nor is AM radio. Okay, we have an area where I'm dealing with a large geographic area on the west side of the Puget Sound, and I'm looking for fill-in options. Well, are you at liberty to say which station you are? Because, yeah, if you... I'm assuming you're thinking of FM boosters, where you have a second transmitter that is operating on that's operating on the same frequency. The thing about boosters is that the booster has to be located inside entirely inside the service contour of the primary station. Okay, we've got a call. Okay, that's you calling me. Hello.
Hello. This is Sean Couples. I've been calling or texting or messaging you on the board. So to speak of area, very new initiative. We don't have a license at this time. There's a pretty significant gap in service over here, being on the west side of the Sound in the Seattle Metro. From what I can tell, we're subject to all of the 10-kilometer restrictions because of Arbitron Market, though in reality we're far closer to a rural area here because of the Sound being a geographic divide.
Yeah, it all depends on the county. Yeah, it all depends on what county you land in. As far as that only really that applies to a few things. The options, of course. I mean, I just briefly mentioned a booster. And we've got one LPFM KWSV in Los Angeles that has a booster, and the booster serves excellent situation. Other options would be translators. If you're able to purchase a translator from an existing organization or company or person that has one, and it's able to receive that other station. Even if you're more than so many miles away, as long as you can receive it off the air, another organization unrelated to the LPFM can own the translator, and you're not subject to that 10-mile rule. So as long as I'm fighting with Seattle. I mean, I have Seattle stations behind me on hills that I can't go onto because of their altitude. So I'll be honest, the competition for translators here is going to be pretty fierce. Oh yeah, it's a major market, of course. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's one thing that we. And
are they still allowing people to translate HD2s, HD3s on translators as their own separate signals? I don't know where that went. I know that was a thing when I left commercial broadcast years ago.
Yeah, you can do it on commercial. The only time you cannot do it is if you have an LPFM station and the translator is commonly owned by the LPFM organization. You can't do it, but if you're running HD on an LPFM, yeah, then you can run and the organization and somebody different owns the translator. Yeah, you can do it. But overall, overall you can do HD. You can still do HD on a translator.
From a booster fill-in perspective, though, I haven't looked at the gear that is commonly known. When I left, the Harris Digit was still on top on the commercial side, and you could do an N+1 sync there and get reasonable coverage without a ton of multipath between two overlapping service areas on channel. It sounds like there is some of that's happened in the LPFM space, and there's not a whole lot of additional regulatory hurdle there. Is that a correct statement?
Well, if you are talking about a booster, you can do a booster. Licensed as a booster, you're allowed to do that. Of course, the 60 dB of the booster must be entirely inside the LPFM. So in order for it to be effective, you really have to be in a situation where you've got a very large service contour, and you can do that through, foothill effect, especially if you've got an LPFM that's located like right up on the base of a major mountain range. And this is the way we're doing it right now is that, you have a boost, you have an LPFM that's on the range, that's on the, where you've got a huge elevation behind you, but you got a very low elevation in front of you, and that all averages out. And if you can average that to a 30 meters or less, well, guess what? You've got 100 watts at a fairly high height because of foothill effect.
Yeah.
And
there's already a translator in a location that is perfect for this, and I did the height above average terrain calcs, and, well, they lied on their application, but that's fine. It still comes out where I get 100 watts at effectively 200 feet above the population that I'm trying to serve, which is fantastic. The only thing I need to worry about is potentially protecting another LPFM in the region, which both sites that I'm looking at.
Well, are you looking at doing this as? Are you looking at? Are you looking at doing this as a translator, or are you looking at doing this as as an LPFM?
I would be looking at doing it as an LPFM.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Then there's already a translator on site for an AM.
Right.
So I'm hoping to reuse that site and
right.
Possibly,
and
they've already gotten all the applications in.
Right. So code channel, you would have, I mean, from a regulatory perspective, code channel, you'd be 24 kilometer requirement between two LPFM stations. But in reality, if in reality, if you got two 24 kilometer stations that are close together, and one of them is in the foothills and one of them is on a different foothill, is in a different range or something, yeah, you're going to have a lot of interference between the two, and there's nothing the FCC will do about it. That was a case that came up in California a couple of years ago. It was what we call the packing house case, where an existing LP from the first window had a nice foothill effect station. Second window came another LPFM on a different mountain, on the face of a different mountain, exactly 24 kilometers away, was granted a construction permit. They both wrecked each other. One of the existing station filed an informal, an objection, and the FCC said, well, guess what? You two are spaced 24 kilometers apart, so you're legal. Tough beans.
Yeah.
So
there's a legal side of that, and I understand exactly what you're saying. On the other hand, I believe that we should be supporting each other as an as a
absolutely.
community. So I'm not going to consider sites that are problematic.
And exactly.
I'll lower my antenna first.
Exactly. That's the right thing, and that's my point is that's the right thing to do. Just don't pick a channel just because it looks good on paper. You got to do your research, and you got to see what your impact. The interference rules on for LPFM, we don't have the same rules as translators do for resolving interference, but we as the LPFMs can go after translators. So I mean, there's just these weird differences in the rules because we use distance, they use contours, and it's worked for us in both ways. It's worked. There's some good to this, and there's some bad to this, and trust me, we've been fighting this for a long time now with the FCC, and trying to especially where we're getting into the LP250 stuff, and we had talked a while about allowing LPFMs to use contours in certain situations where they'd be allowed to by statute under the Local Community Radio Act. And there's just been a lot of work there. But yeah, you've got to plan this out right, and yeah, you got to be a good neighbor. I mean, simple as that. You got to be a good neighbor, and take into consideration who else is there. Because remember that even if you go on the air and you crunch the heck out of them, well, guess what? They're also crunching the heck out of you too. So that so there's something in it for everybody. If you play by the good neighbor rule.
Yeah, and I'm gonna stand on that's just the right thing to do. So
yeah.
I think that's where I want to leave it. Do you mind if I ask another question?
Absolutely here. Yeah, totally.
I've gotten involved with another LPFM locally. Like I said, I have some background in the commercial space from years ago. Got out of it. Looking to get back in because there's an underserved community that I live in right now. Everyone focuses on Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
But I started asking questions about, hey, do we get Nielsen numbers? What's the deal with this? How do we understand our demographics of who's listening and all of this? Do we have any information on that? Do you have any information on Nielsen's practices with LPFMs and if they offer encoders? Or basically, I just asked the question and started looking at it. Figured, well, I'm here, I'll ask.
My understanding is Nielsen will provide any station that wants one with PPM. If you want a PPM encoder, now here's the problem though. In order to get your ratings, you have to subscribe. And that is the key thing is that now, of course, you can go to a friend who works at a radio station who is a subscriber, and you can look in the book and you'll see your numbers in there, even if you're not a subscriber. But you cannot share those numbers. You cannot use that and say, hey, look, we've got this 2.7 share, underwrite with us. You can't do that. nor can you announce,
Correct.
your stuff. But I mean, if somebody sneaks you that information, there's also and I don't have the full information on it. And I know, like, if you ask on LPFM Solidarity or you ask on the LPFM groups, somebody will know about this. Is that there is a non-commercial organization that aggregates the data from Nielsen for non-commercial stations, and then you can get your data that way. Ryan says, Ryan who runs an LPFM in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area in Mesa, says he has a encoder. He's got a PPM encoder on his station. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so yeah, you can get the encoders. I'm outside of a PPM market, so that's BJ.
Yeah, I got involved with one of the other.
Mm-hmm.
I got involved in one of the stations down in Tacoma, and because, like I said, I want to understand how the LPFM and non-commercial space works before I go all in on standing one up here, especially since there's a filing window aspect and all of that I need to worry about. And they don't have one, and they're trying to understand their listenership, and it seems like something that at least this area is lacking information on.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
really good information.
Yeah.
And yes, going and stealing the information from someone who works and gets a copy of the book is, I mean, the way we used to do it back when it was the diary system in the small markets and the owner was cheap. So
yeah, and BJ Moore is saying about RRC, which no relationship to REC, which is the which I believe is what he's referring to as the Radio Research Consortium, and I think that is the group that helps NCEs get their Nielsen information. I believe I believe they charge for that, and there's a whole process. But from my understanding, it's easier to do. It's easier to get in with them, I guess, than being a full blown Nielsen subscriber. And that is rrconline.org, rrconline.org. And so that's something that folks can check out. And that was the name that was on the tip of my tongue that BJ Mora just answered on the chat with information on regarding what we can what you can do. But but you have to be a full blown Nielsen subscriber in order for your ratings to be published. Like, for example, when you look in All Access or one of these other trade publications where they come out with the ratings, in order for you to be listed there, you have to be a full-blown Nielsen subscriber in order to get that.
I know for the station down in Tacoma that I'm involved with, that they're more interested in the data for their own, what programming should we be airing kind of questions, rather than the underwriting aspect, if they're not actively doing that right now.
Right. And what I mean,
and
and of course, engaging with your listeners through social media is always a cheap way of doing things. Announcing your shows and seeing how many likes you get on when promoting a certain show. Sometimes that is a good indicator. So there's certain sneaky things that you can do that don't cause a lot of hate and discontent with your listeners, that would be able to help you with doing that. So
awesome, fantastic ideas. Thank you very much.
Yeah, not a problem at all. Take care.
Have a good.
Wow. I like this phone thing. I love it. I mean, this is, we're doing call-ins. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. And a 1-855-HI-MICHI. That's 1-855-HIMICHI. Hi-MICHI for, your calls, your questions. your comments. Is there something that, is there something about the FCC that's irking you? Is there something about the industry that's irking you? This is a good time to, to have your say. And, I like this phone call in concept. I do like this. This is working. So I'm very happy with this, and we'll just have to see where things go. And hopefully we'll be able to start doing these again. I do miss doing the live streams. We were just everything was in a everything was in a crazy. We were in a crazy quandary there for that past year with the pandemic. And honestly, we were kind of, we were like many of you. We just did not have, we didn't know what tomorrow was going to bring. And, so we kind of just laid low on a lot of things. It gave me a lot of time to do a lot of long-term projects. We wrote ELMS during that time. We did a bunch of changes and such, a lot of changes didn't really involve a lot of capital investment. And, and now things are starting to look up again, which is good. So we're moving forward. And I think that overall, as a community and as an industry and such, I think we are moving forward. I think there's definitely a light at the end of the tunnel. Richard Dalton says RRC subscribers are listed in the rankings. Okay, that's good to know. See, I don't know that part, so that's why I'm glad I've got this community. We've got this great community on here who's answering these questions with us. And that's the power of the peanut gallery. That is the power of the audience. That is the power of the community is coming together with this. So just to let everybody know, on Thursday afternoon, I will be getting my second Pfizer shot. So I have already, Friday is kind of going to be a rest day for me. It's going to be a day, I don't know how this is going to side affect me yet. So I'm playing it safe and saying Friday, don't expect much from me. If you do get anything from me, it's going to be great. That means I'm feeling better. I will let you all know on Friday how I feel. So if you contact me on Friday, and if I don't answer the phone and I don't return voicemails, or in some cases not even return emails until maybe the Monday afterwards, please be patient with me. Because again, I don't know how much this is going to hit me on the second dose. The first one did not hit me that bad. I just had some major fatigue. I got home. I was tired. I think I fell asleep about 8 o'clock in the evening, which is very unlike me. I'm normally a 12 to 1 a.m. bedtimer. And, and I slept the whole time. So it really just, it drained me more than anything. So let's hope that the second shot doesn't do anything more than that. If I can get all my problems squared away on the Thursday before and be pep and ready to go for Friday, all's great. But if not, just expect that we'll be in minimal operations on Friday. Michael Reynolds asking, what is happening with LP250? Well, right now, unfortunately, nothing's happening with LP250. There is still a petition for reconsideration that's still sitting in the doldrums right now. I am not really moving anything forward with LP250 until we have a full commission. Right now, we are at 2 and 2. We're in a deadlocked commission. We are starting to see more politicking, we'll say, from Brendan Carr. He's been talking a lot more about the Democratic agenda, the Democrats this, yada, 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 yada. But in all fairness, we're also hearing the same thing from Starks about the Republicans. So, for a while there, it was very rare for us to see the words Democrat or Republican come up in the names of FCC releases. But we're starting to see a little bit more of it lately. Apparently, Ajit Pai did a really, some people will call it good job in grooming Brendan Carr to, I guess, carry the torch. And Nate Symington has given us some. Nate Symington and especially his staff have given us some very interesting surprises on various issues. I'm not at liberty really to get into many major discussion on that, but we are working on a major petition for reconsideration right now on something, and some of you may know what this is, but there has been no. I mean, our dealings with Symington have been unlike our past dealings with Pai and especially O'Reilly, who I call the NAB's lapdog. I don't know if, we haven't had any of the Republican commissioners talking lately on real broadcast issues to really know how much in bed Carr or Symington, or for that matter, Rosenworcel or Starks is with the NAB. But we all know that the NAB was very deeply in bed with Michael O'Reilly and was also in bed with Ajit Pai. So right now I've had to really, until we got something going here, and plus also too, there's a pending petition for reconsideration that is currently out there right now that there's been no action on. This petition for reconsideration did not come from REC. It came from another party about how the FCC handled the LP 250. Right now I'm in a situation where I've got to be very careful that I do not do anything that could harm that case or that would violate the ex parte rules. So I'm kind of in this weird bind now. There is a petition for rulemaking that is currently sitting in ECFS, which is the Simple 250 proposal, which when the FCC rejected us in 19193 and said it was too hard, and we came in the last minute with the idea of the Simple 250 process, and they still said, "Well, too late in the process. You're too late to the party." It's like when you get to the airport and the jetway is still attached and the cabin door may be open, but they've got the gate door closed because they want that thing to have an on-time departure. Same thing happens here. You arrive at the gate too late, but the plane's still in the gate. Okay, and that's kind of what happened because we were working last minute up to that Sunshine Agenda cutoff 7 days before the meeting to try to get something out there. And so we went ahead and resubmitted that whole concept as a separate petition for rulemaking. The audio division has never approved that to have, or the Media Bureau has never approved that to have an RM number. And so that is the one thing I can push for. And right now, like I said, we're just trying to get everything together. We've got a couple big items on the plate right now. Let's get through this latest round of rulemaking, the NCE, and such. And then when there's a calm in the storm, then we're going to come back in with LP 250 and try to work with who we have. The problem is right now is right now what I need them to do is I need an RM number for here's the thing though. I would like to have an RM number for Simple 250. But the thing is I've got there's this reconsideration out there. And this reconsideration is also based on the previous concept, which involved contours, which is a little more complex, but it was more flexible. It was a better plan, and it was legal under the LCRA. And if I'm going to have two of those plans, out there, simple 250 is the booby prize. I mean, that is the compromise. But if I've got a possibility that my original ideas, my original concepts of being able to do an LP250, being able to use contours and directional antennas in the case of in the cases of foothill situations, being able to protect translators like translators protect LPFMs, and then with the cost of being subject to the LPFM, the translator remediation rules, then I'm going to go for that. So I'm kind of in this rock and a hard place. What do I do? Do I stay with what we've got? Do I move with do we do this do I push for the simple 250, which would still give quite a bit of availability, especially in the rural and suburbans? Or do I go with the original 250, which would actually maybe offer a small amount of urban opportunity? I think the simple 250 would fly better with the Media Bureau, especially since they're so hooked on this fact that LPFMers need everything simple, and it's gonna discourage people from being licensees if they think that the process is too difficult. Yet they deny the truth. They are engineered deniers at the FCC, because when we pointed out that in the 2013 window, at least half of the applications filed were done with hired help. They weren't do-it-yourself applications. With second adjacent channel waivers, you can't do-it-yourself applications. The FCC, Congress, by allowing the second adjacent waivers in the LCRA, had already said, look, you can do complex applications, because you just can't, because in order to do a second adjacent waiver, guess what you need? You need contour data. You need to be able to look at a location and be able to measure the contour. So you either have to do it, the way when you don't have a tool, and that is to use the height above average terrain tool at the FCC, put it for 360 directions, look at the heading between your station, and between your proposed station and the second adjacent station, do the exact opposite. Get that height above average terrain, get the distance between the two stations, and then go into go into the FCC's curves tool. It's a mess, but there is a way to do it without having ComStudy or VSoft or any of these other tools. It's, there's a way to do it. And, but other than that, of course, using the tools makes it a lot easier to figure out what you're doing. And so bottom line is that if you're going to have an LPFM with a second adjacent waiver, and guess what? That's most of the LPFMs that advantaged off of the Local Community Radio Act, you're going to need hired help. And, hired help that can do a second adjacent waiver is just as much capable of doing a contour study between your station and a translator. And the requirement that you have to use distance separation to protect other stations, that is a statutory requirement, but only towards full service stations, not towards translators. There's nothing statutory that is stopping the FCC from allowing a LPFM station to protect, to use contours to protect a translator. Let's say you've got a translator that, has a directional antenna looking totally the other way. And if you were to drop an LPFM in there, that the 40 dB co-channel interfering contour of that LPFM doesn't cross into the 60 dB of that translator that's totally looking the other way, might even be on the other side of a mountain and looking the other way. You can you can do this in the translator world. You just can't do it in the LPFM world because we have these damn distance separation requirements on everything. Everything about LPFM is circles. Circles, yes, circles everywhere. I don't know. I would love to see some changes. The problem is we need to get some attitudes changed at the FCC, and it's going to take more than me. And this is, somebody had mentioned to me earlier today, why isn't the NFCB, the National Federation of Community Broadcasters, why aren't they commenting on things? Good question. I'm going to have to get a hold of Eduardo over there at NFCB because, they just recently did a CEO change there. And figure out why aren't they getting involved in these rulemakings. They should have, I would have loved to have had them on board on 19.3, especially since that involved full service NCE. I would have loved to have had them on board on 19.193. I mean, they've got a ton of NCE membership. LPFM membership. And being a NFCB member is not cheap. I mean, what, $500 at the lowest level? I mean, for the smallest LPFM's $500. What are they getting? I mean, I love NFCB and all. I love working with them, but I've got to play devil's advocate here and say, NFCB, if you're out there listening, call me and let's talk about your regulatory future and your involvement in stations and the future of stations and the future of regulation. I need help out here. There's strength in numbers. And I can only do so much. And, and my view is just that one view. Now, of course, a lot of times before some major issues, you'll always see me go out and do a constituent survey. I do my best to try to do constituent surveys, and then we work our rulemaking, our positions off that. Now, of course, REC does have specific positions. We have specific things that we go by, and a lot of it's common sense. And we don't always align with Prometheus. We don't always align with Common Frequency, NFCB, any other groups, I mean, we never have. And that's what diversity is all about. Diversity means that everybody has diverse views. Everybody's not going to agree, but at least we're going along the same path. We're going on the same path. Let's see. Okay. Pixo, Arizona. Hi, Michi.
Howdy.
Waves. Oh, I got a call. Hello. Caller, are you on the air?
I am. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Well,
how long you been waiting there?
Earlier.
How long you been listening to me? I didn't even know you were there.
I was there for like 2 minutes, maybe.
Okay.
I called back when I heard stuff about LPFM being all circles, and it brought up a question in my mind that in a situation like ours, we're blocked to the north by a mountain. We're
Right.
blocked to the south by a mountain. We're
Mhm.
blocked to the east by a mountain. We only get out west. That's the only, and we don't get the, convenient foothill effect
Mhm.
because it doesn't work for us. We get a measly 2 watts. So when you take 2 watts and you only get to go one direction, it kind of sucks for your signal.
Yeah.
But they won't allow directional antennas for a situation like ours where we're screwed in every direction but one. So we're wasting 75% of our signal on mountains that are blocking it.
Right. And what the FCC is going to look at is going to be, obviously because they look at the contour, and contour is calculated the way what they do is they look at your height above average terrain in 360 different directions. And the way that you calculate height above average terrain is you look at the terrain between 2 and 10 miles, and then they take 50 measurements of elevation within that 8 mile range, and then that determine then you take the average of that measurement, and that is your average terrain in that direction. And and so unfortunately, when you have terrain obstructions that are less than 2 miles away, then those will result in your contour actually going over the mountain and going on to the other side. We have this working beautifully for a station in California. Go to FCC data and look at the station KWSV in Simi Valley, California, one of the stations I've worked with for quite a long time now. And their station is located less than 2 miles from a major mountain increase in elevation. But then right on the other side of that mountain comes down into the San Fernando Valley. So they've got all this area between 2 and 10 miles that they've got all these low elevations, and then they've got the ones to the north, which is a high elevation, and then they've got Simi Valley to the west, which is a lower elevation, and they've got high elevation to the south, and it all averages out. It's beautiful. It creates a 60 dB contour in the Simi Valley area to the west, which they can cover no problem, but it also provides a 60 dB contour into the east towards the San Fernando Valley, which they do not cover because of terrain blockage. So what we did was we put a booster up at a different mountain and stuck a directional antenna on that, and stuck a 6-watt signal or 7-watt signal that just fit that contour like a glove, and that was the first LPFM booster. That was,
which works great for their situation.
Exactly.
But there's just nowhere for us to put a booster within our contour.
Oh no, and let's see, you're KFXY, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I just and see, yours is a little bit of a different situation there. If we look at the I'm just looking at it right now on another tool here. Yeah, see, yeah, I mean, yeah, because see, you've got that hill that, see, if we look at, and if anybody wants to follow along, go to FCC data and pull up the station KFXY, that's Kilo Foxtrot X-Ray Yankee, and in FCC data, and look at the map that's on the left side, because that's what we're looking at there. And yeah, and I can see in this situation, yeah, you've got this mountain directly to the south of you there. And of course, that's going to cut your coverage off, and there's really, and because it is the kind of the perfect, the 5.6 kilometer or so service contour in that direction, probably, there's not a lot of area there to put a booster in, mainly because you only have high terrain, really. You don't have that much high terrain, and that's the problem in your situation. Is that it's not like it's not like a situation like if you want to see a beautiful example of a foothill effect station, take a look in FCC data at a station called KQLH. That's Kilo Quebec Lima Hotel. That is the poster child. That's one of two stations I could point you to that is the poster child of foothill effect. And we have one booster for them on the air already. They're the other LPFM right now with a booster, and they're in the Inland Empire area of just east of Los Angeles in Riverside County, and they run the. And so they've got their station there. We've got the booster running. The booster's running fantastic. It's getting good coverage. It's filling in an area. But because of being in the foothill effect, where you have a low height above average terrain, you're able to take advantage of that. In your situation, unfortunately, you're a 2 meter, your height above average terrain is at 260 meters. And like I said, again, that's based on all the terrain that's between 2 and 10 miles from you. And,
So it would be nice to be able to use a directional antenna when you're in a situation like ours.
Well, actually a directional antenna would not really help you because it would actually diminish your signal. The only thing that a directional antenna would help you with in a broadcast field would be is that it would help you reduce your transmitter power output, but it's not going to extend your service contour. And this is this is kind of a misnomer about directional antennas in the broadcast industry, because we work off of effective radiated power and not transmitter power output like we do in ham radio, where, if you have 100 watts from a transmitter and you're running it into a directional antenna that maybe has 7 dB of gain, now your 100 watts is suddenly about 350, almost 400 watts effective radiated power. But in this world, you're already effective radiated. We're already looking at effective radiated power. Your effective radiated power, needs to be able to, your the combination of your effective radiated power and your height above average terrain need to make a 5.6 kilometers contour. And that's what it does. At 2 if I look at 2 watts, I mean, if we go into the curves tool,
I guess maybe what I'm thinking is, if the FCC were to first establish what my TPO or what my effective radiated power is for the station, so they figure that out. Okay, you get 2 watts, and then after that, they can be like, well, now you can take all of that 2 watts and stick it one direction instead of wasting so much of your 2 watts on nothing.
Well, I mean, you could. Well, that's the whole thing. And if it's, well, the thing is that you are getting 2 watts all the way around, yes, but 2 watts is going into the mountain, and obviously.
So I guess maybe then they would. So I don't know. I get it. It's way so complicated. I just want that all that coverage area that we are supposed to get out into the mountains and to the south, that we don't, all this coverage that we're not getting. Just take our little bubble and give us a little something more the direction we actually do get out. And I get it. That's complicated, but it just be, I don't know how you would ever figure it out.
And that's, and the thing is that, how can I say this? Is that when you have, that's, if we were talking higher powers here, let's say we were talking 100 watts, because, let's say you were running 100 watts and you had a transmitter that, maybe only handled 50 watts TPO, can only do 50 watts TPO, but you got 100 watts. And, you could run a direct, in practicality, you could run a directional antenna with, 3 dB of gain or something like that, and be able to get 100 watts out of an antenna with a 50 watt transmitter, depending on the gain of the antenna. And, there are, like, for example, the community stations in Japan do it that way. In Japan, they have their community stations, their equivalent of LPFM is 20 watts TPO, 20 watts transmitter power output, but they can put it on a directional antenna and maybe get 100 watts ERP, or get 80 watts ERP. That's how they do it there. The old service that we used to have for the Class D service before 1978, that was 10 watts transmitter power output. And you could do a direction, you could do, various antenna types. But yeah, in a direction, in our world, in our broadcast world, yeah, it will help if you're needing to shave off, transmitter power output, but, when you're talking like 2 or 3 watts, when there's not really that many transmitters that are available that will do like 1 watt TPO that's certified, I don't see the purpose of it. What we're seeing more is these stations that are on mountaintops, and they're running 2 watts they're running 2 watts ERP, and they're running a certified transmitter like the TX 300 BW transmitter, that maybe their lowest setting is like 30 watts, and then they're having to run an attenuator. I know of some that are taking coax and spooling coax to get more insertion loss before hitting the antenna, because there's really not that many choices out there for certified equipment that can go under 10 watts TPO. It just doesn't exist, and I have a feeling that many of these stations that are running less than, that little bit of power are probably running on certified transmitters, and they're probably because they're sitting up in mountaintops where, the FCC will probably not go to. The FCC will probably never know. I mean, there's a whole controversy around the whole certified transmitter issue. And, I do feel that there needs to be some reforms there, where, the older broadcast transmitters, if they are supervised by somebody who has proven themselves, through some other means that they have the knowledge to maintain and control one of these transmitters. And I would look at things like SBE certification. I would look at an extra class amateur radio license. I would look at various things to say, hey, this person is competent to control this uncertified transmitter. And and this uncertified transmitter is maybe one that was a type accepted one, or a manufacturer's declaration of conformance. The other rule that most other broadcast gear, that most other broadcast services use, other than LPFM, for equipment, they don't have to send their, Full Power doesn't have to send their equipment to the lab. It's just LPFM. Why? Because LPFM is considered more of a consumer service. We go to the same lab that you send that you send your walkie-talkies to, your garage door openers, your Part 15 little mini transmitters that send your cell phone to your car radio. That's what's going to the, that's where LPFM is in that same department. And that's the reason why we have these, they were worried that, people were going to put kit transmitters on the air. We had Stephen Dunifer back in the 90s threatening to put 10,000 pirate transmitters on the air. So of course there's going to be, there was always going to be concern. Of course, the NAB had a lot to do with this. And, there was just a lot of concern early on that, that these uncertified transmitters were going to be, we're going to destroy FM. Kind of like how Third Adjacent Channel was going to destroy FM, and and they got Congress to pass a law, and we were off of Third Adjacent Channels for 10 years until it was proven that the stuff that was on that compact disc was hogwash. So and then we got the Local Community Radio Act passed as a result of that severe demonstration of hogwash. Let's see. Michael Reynolds, Radio World is well aware that NAB does not want LPFM licensees to be voting NAB members. Yeah, that's right. 10 miles is excessive in height above average terrain calculations for LPFM. I agree and disagree. I feel like we need to. I think that maybe we got to keep things standard, and especially when we do have some situations like second adjacent, third adjacent, and such, where contours come into play. Then we definitely need to. Yeah, I would want a standardized contour definition, a standardized height above average terrain definition between them. I mean, yeah, there's other ways of doing propagation other than contours. Unfortunately, that is a lot more complex. The FCC wouldn't even think about anything like that. The FCC figures that contours are easier. They're proven. They're not perfect. Actually, they're deceiving. I always say contours can be deceiving. And there's just a lot of things I don't for now I'm happy with contours, and I'm happy with the 2 to 10 on the height above average terrain for right now. I mean, if we change anything, it's going to completely change the market. It's going to completely change. It would have to completely change everything across the board, from LPFMs and boosters all the way up to the big 100,000 watt Class C blowtorches. So let's see, take a look here. Michael Reynolds also saying, I just learned that a first adjacent pirate is splattering on top of our licensed frequency. Well, that's not good. You'll have to put in a complaint with the FCC now. Oklahoma, I'm not sure if Oklahoma is on. I'm assuming Oklahoma is served out of the Western Division with Mark Hadley. I'm not sure if Oklahoma's out of there or out of Atlanta for enforcement. But either way, you go to the FCC. There is a complaint website. I can probably get you the link to the specific page for broadcast stations that want to complain about stuff like this. And because we just had to do one recently for another situation where there was a pirate, and enforcement got back pretty fast. Now, the problem is getting somebody out there. That's going to be the challenge. Right now, and this is not me endorsing pirate radio or encouraging it in any way, but it's just more of a reality that I just feel like from my vibe from the Enforcement Bureau is that they're kind of reluctant right now to move people across the country because of COVID. So it'll be interesting to see where this all goes. Wow, it's almost 5 o'clock. It's almost 5 o'clock here in Riverton. What time did we start? I think we started at 2 o'clock. Yeah, I remember, because I said it's 2 o'clock here, 11 a.m. in the West Coast. So it's like good morning from Riverton. Wow. This has been probably our best YouTube stream ever. This is the longest I've gone. But I'm very glad to have been able to spend the afternoon with you all, because we need to do this more often. We need to have these discussions online like this. And as a community, we do need to still come together. And, it's one thing to type messages on Facebook and get everybody's opinion, like, smile, laugh, love. I mean, but it's another to, for the two-way interaction, you look what we did here today. We were looking at specific station situations and looking at the situations and saying, okay, you've got this, you've got that, you got that big mountain in front of you, and sometimes this is the best thing to do, is we look at the real world situations and we all look at them together. And then we can, and then everybody can understand what's going on. So anyway, again, just to sum up on some things here really quickly here, and I think we're going to probably call it here in just a little bit. Unless you have any other questions, 1-855-HI-MICHI, 1-855-HIMICHI. If you want to try to derail me, feel free to try. And, we can do this. 1-855-HI-MICHI. But let's see. Today we've got the deadline for filing comments in the proceedings in respect to PS docket 15-94 and 15-91, which is related to emergency alert system, the change of the name presidential alert to national alert, encouragement by the commission for states that currently do not have state emergency communications coordinators to establish those, as well as dealing with issues around the feasibility of whether ES equipment can send repeat alerts, especially in national situations. And the other issue is in the reporting of false alerts. So those are the issues that are in this current notice of proposed rulemaking. There is a notice of inquiry under the same docket numbers, and that is due on May 4th. May 14th, and that has to do with a couple of things. The big one on there is an inquiry whether streaming services would like to be able to participate in the emergency alert system in some way or another. In the comments, we raised a lot of issues, including some out-of-scope issues that needed to go on the record, involving the quality of the alerts that we received and the lack of usage of the iPause open system, which we will talk a lot more about when we go to talk about streaming, because, in order for a national streaming organization to really be able to give effective alerts, they need to be able to receive them, and they're not going to have radio receivers in every market that's going to pick these things up. They're going to need to, be able to get it through some other means, and we have the perfect vehicle. It's iPause. It's just they need to use it. But the main thing, we need to make sure that no matter what happens, no matter what happens, that we never get into a situation where streamers will be obligated to run any kind of are obligated in any way to participate in EAS. That, whether you're the small broadcaster like J1, or whether you are YouTube, Spotify, or whoever, you should not be required to participate. We do participate in. J1 is actually more connected to Japan's emergency alert system right now than we are to our own. And that's because of government red tape. So that's where we're at. That is where we're at on that. Reply comments on what was due today is on May 4th. We have FCC open meeting coming up on Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, I believe. And that will be a Zoom call with the FCC commissioners. It will be streamed on fcc.com, fcc.gov/live. It'll probably be also on their YouTube channel. I have not decided yet whether we're going to put it on here or not. I figure that if it's available elsewhere, it doesn't necessarily need to be available here. I may put it up on here just so we can have the chat. And then maybe if there's time, we can have a side channel. The issues up there that are of importance to us right now is the application cap for non-commercial educational stations. The FCC is proposing, their order is coming up, is going to be 10. 10 application limit is what the draft order is for right now. Second is the foreign government funded programming. The FCC has come up with a decision that basically is saying that if the foreign government organization is actually paying the station to rebroadcast, to broadcast their programming, kind of like a time brokerage agreement, then there would be some form of a, there needs to be some form of a disclosure. Also, in the cases, regardless of any remuneration, if the conversation, if the subject matter deals with quote political or controversial issues, again, propaganda, then the disclosure would be required on there. This really is not going to impact most situations with non-commercials. I am still concerned though about a show called The Shortwave Report. and because they do rebroadcast a lot of Sputnik excerpts from Sputnik, from CRI, China Radio International, and from Radio Havana, Cuba. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I still have concerns about that. I will be consulting I'll probably be consulting with one of my attorneys after the rulemaking is adopted, so that way we can get some clarification on where we think that stands under this rule, and whether playing news actualities will have any impact. I have a feeling that we are going to get petitions for reconsideration on this one. I think one of them is going to come from the company that provides the programming to the Washington, D.C. station that's doing the Sputnik, that's got the Sputnik deal. I don't see any petitions for reconsideration coming out of the 10 application cap. I'm perfectly fine with the 10 cap. I'd rather have 5, but I'm good with the 10. And there's another issue regarding Part 74, licensed wireless microphones in this upcoming. There's something going on with that. I have not had a chance to read on that one to see what's going on with that one. But if there is any impacts to LPFM, we'll probably put out an advisory letter. But I don't think there will be on that. So that's for Thursday. Friday, REC will be in limited operations due to me getting my second COVID shot on Thursday afternoon. So wish me luck. Hopefully I make it home without driving off the road or something like that. I don't want to say that because I might just jinx myself. I don't know. Anyway, I think we've been doing this for quite a while, and I just want to, thank everybody for sticking in there. I think we saw like at least 11 or 12 simultaneous at one time. If you are not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to this channel. And if there's one of those silly notification bells, click that, and that way you'll be notified whenever we do one of these things. We'll also announce it on the Facebook page and such, that that we're doing this. And I liked this long marathon. If I can make time to do this once a week, like 2 or 3 hours, and hopefully people will come, and hopefully we'll have some new things to talk about, and hopefully we'll be able to answer some questions. And that's the whole thing. Let's do this as a question thing. Or, if somebody wants to call in and they have something they want to talk about, about what they're doing with LPFM, what they're doing with their stations, some kind of technology, something they're playing with. And also, too, this doesn't have to be limited to LPFM. I'll go in other places on this one. You want to go ham radio, you want to go amateur radio, you want to go GMRS, you want to go to any of the other FCC regulated services. I'm all for it. We may talk about ham radio stuff on here sometimes. I am a licensed ham. I'm KU3N. Been licensed for zillions of years. Anyway, my viewer rate's dropping because I'm boring the hell out of you. So until we speak again, good day from Riverton.